Hello and welcome to Songs for the Struggling Artist, the blogcast. This is episode 405. My name is Emily Rainbow Davis. Thank you for being here. Today's blog is inspired by a television program. It's called Detective Anna, or at least that's what it's called in English. I am not sure what it might be called in Russian. I'm pretty sure Anna's in the title, but I'm not so sure about the detective. Because, in fact, she is not a detective. She is a medium, really. So it's a somewhat condescending title, I feel, calling her Detective Anna. But anyway, it's a very interesting television program. And it gave me some feelings, which I wrote about in this blog post. And it is called Something Familiar About This Russian Show. Folks over on the period drama subreddit recommended the Russian series Detective Anna. And, as previously established, I am a particular fan of period workplace dramas about women, so this seemed right up my street. Anna is not really a detective, though. She has visions of dead people who then help her solve their murders. It's a ghost detective show, I guess, like Pulling Daisies or The Ghost Whisperer or Medium. There's a genre now, it seems. Detective Anna takes place in the late 1800s in a small Russian town called Zadonsk. So it has a pleasing amount of period overcoats and hoods and such. I'm enjoying it, for the most part. There's something about it, though, that feels very familiar and a little uncomfortable. The titular character, Anna, not a detective, is a young woman who has a talent, surrounded by men who do not acknowledge it. Despite the fact that I've now seen 12 episodes in which her abilities as a medium have solved the crime, everyone around her either ignores her skill or finds it hilarious that she thinks she has it. Only her uncle acknowledges her abilities. She forges ahead in this world of men, flirting with the police detective who is clearly in love with her but teases her about seeing murder victims in her sleep. He likes her, but he doesn't take her seriously. No one seems to. This feels very familiar to me. Even though I have no supernatural abilities, I know what it's like to not be taken seriously. To be liked, but not respected for my skill. At first, I was a little annoyed with this show for putting its heroine in so many positions alone in which she has no allies and no authority but still has to make a difference. I asked myself why I was still watching this program set in this world of only men. But then I thought, right, this is often what we're up against, trying to sneak our insights in, to pass on our intelligence without getting kicked out of rooms of power. We let the fellas laugh at us and patronize us so we can solve the problem. Anna cannot work as a detective in the world of the show because it's the late 19th century and she's not allowed. But she can circumnavigate certain restrictions just by virtue of the fact that she's in communication with the dead. She's constantly soft-pedaling what she knows. She often pretends she doesn't know things she does know. She has to frame what she says in the most careful of terms. She has to tolerate people laughing at her in the moments she would most want to be taken seriously. Here, in our modern world, a woman could be a detective, but she will likely still have to find subversive ways to be heard. The skills are almost the same. We probably don't have to worry about our mothers trying to marry us off to rich suitors in this day and age, but the feelings of being dismissed and ridiculed are very familiar. Maybe this show will give us the tools to get past those dismissals and minimizations. Maybe not. Meanwhile, I will enjoy the lovely preponderance of 19th century warm Russian hats and coats. So when I wrote this, I'd only seen 12 episodes. Now I have seen all of the first season. So that is 52 episodes that I watched. It does get slightly better in terms of her being taken seriously. Like, as time goes by, people just cannot ignore the reality of what's happening. And then it turns in a weird way. Anyway, it's a very odd show, and I'm glad I watched it, but it is quite curious. And it's also, like, so Russian. I don't. There are things where it's like, oh yeah. I mean, there's like a Chekhov episode where they're basically like the characters from The Seagull, and I didn't realize right away, but I was like, this is very much like The Seagull, and then I was like, oh, it's Russia. Like The Seagull is like they're Shakespeare. Like of course they're doing a riff on The Seagull, but it was it took me longer than it should have to like work out the premise based on The Seagull. Anyway, and there's also like characters that are like, right, this kind of like, I feel like Russian acting has this really kind of beautiful, like dualness. Like in one way it can be very subtle and quiet and like contained. And then there's going to be like some character who's incredibly like over dramatic, and there's this prostitute character at one point who just is always like recounting the drama of what has happened to her in an incredibly like over the top way, which is just glorious to see. And I feel like you don't generally see it in an American program, that kind of like theatrical sensibility. It's very enjoyable. Yeah. Anyway. Well, the character getting taken seriously did continue to drive me crazy, especially from her love interest. But it does get better. It does. And there are more women as time goes by as well, which was helpful. Because at the beginning it was just like this one lady and just like all men except for her mom, who did not have a lot to do. So anyway, I recommend it. It's on Amazon here in the States, and it has ads, and they are very clever at Amazon, because at the beginning there weren't that many ads. I was like, oh, this is fine. And then by the end, when you're like not going to stop because you're at episode 47 or whatever, they start pumping in the ads, like so many ads. So just, be prepared. Right. So, the song I have for you is, I'm really excited to share it with you actually, because it's so perfect. I was searching around and like, I couldn't find anything. And then all of a sudden it just like was like, kablam, I know. It is a song by the band Split Enz, who I believe are from New Zealand. Although they may be like a Aussie New Zealand mix. I'm not sure about that. But I know that the Finn brothers were in Split Enz, which is how I learned about them as a youth, because I was obsessed with Crowded House. So obsessed. So then, of course, I had to get into Split Enz because that was the band that the guys from Crowded House were in before they were in Crowded House. Yeah. So this song is, I believe, from like 1981 or something like that. And there is a video of them performing it, I think, on Australian television. And they are wearing the most glorious suits. If you can, I'm going to link to this video in the show notes, because it is, a sight to see. I'm very impressed with their suits. And the performance is fantastic as well. But anyway, so the song is called Nobody Takes Me Seriously Anyway, which is exactly what this post is all about, is that feeling of being ignored, not taken seriously, laughed at, etc. So I was, it doesn't always work out that the song is like exactly right for the blog post. And in this case, it is. So that's exciting. So I'm going to play that for you in just a moment. Meanwhile, thank you so much for listening. If you like this blogcast, please tell someone about it. like, review, subscribe, do all the things in your podcast app, and then, go ahead and do it in some others. Why not? And if you would like to support this podcast, that would be amazing. Patreon.com/Emily R. Davis. There's also Ko-fi. There's PayPal. You can also do a paid subscription on Substack to the blog. And, if you have another way, let me know about it and I will join it up. And thank you for listening. Couple of things before I play you the song also. There may be a substantial gap in the podcast. I am going to be out of town and I am not ahead of myself enough to get some in the can before I leave. So I'm just going to take a just clear break. It's been a kind of a weird time. I've been having some medical stuff going on, which I'll eventually tell you all about. But right now, it's just been a lot. So I am behind on blogs. I just have one left in the hopper before, and I may get that one done before I leave, but I may not. So if you don't hear from me for a little while, don't worry. I'm okay. I'm just taking a break. So, heads up. So that's, I think, all for this one. I will play for you now. Nobody takes me seriously anyway. Nobody listens to a word that I say, and at work I'm just a four-man's tool. Sitting in the corner with my coffee and tray, all the secretaries think I'm a fool. I don't want to suffer these conditions no more. Haven't I the right to say? I don't want to suffer these conditions no more. Nobody takes me seriously anyway. Nobody takes me seriously anyway. Nobody takes me seriously anyway. Love's not a glimpse, it's a permanent rinse, and it keeps you on your toes all day. Every girl I met seemed to get apathetic when I looked at her that special way. I can't get nobody else to take me for real. They like to keep me tucked away. Even if they listen to what I had to say, nobody'd take me seriously anyway. Nobody takes me seriously anyway. Nobody takes me seriously anyway. War broke out, I'd be the last one to know. If there was a fire, they'd just leave me to burn. I got just as much to say as any man, but I never seem to get my turn. I don't want to suffer these conditions no more. Haven't I the right to say? I don't want to suffer these conditions no more. Nobody takes me seriously anyway. Nobody takes me seriously.